so wrong that I want you all the time. When I see you in the morning light, I know it's gonna be alright. I just wanna hold you tight and make me come alive. To me there is no limit. I want you more and more. I'm not in it to win it. I wanna see you more. There ain't no limit. There ain't no limit. I hear you and I know you wanna take it. Dreams come true and I know that you are mine. Feel so wrong and I just don't want to shake it. I am so wrong and I want you all the time. When I see you in the morning light, I know it's gonna be alright. I just wanna hold you tight. You make me come alive. To me there is no limit. I want you more and more. I'm not in it to win it. I wanna see you more. There ain't no limit. Time after time I ignore you. Now that you're mine, I explore you. To me, there is no limit. I want you more and more. I'm not in it to win it. I wanna see you more. Now we just gotta get with it. It's me you're looking for. I'm not in it to win it. I wanna see you more. There ain't no limit. There ain't no limit, baby. Oh, you know there ain't no limit. Sweet. Feels so good and I hope you feel so good and I hope you're understanding. Dreams come true and I know that you are mine. It takes so long and I just don't want to shake it. I feel so
show. I'll just hold that up. You want to take a seat there. I'm assuming that's the front. So it'll be up there.
You gotta be covered back.
How long we got? In Pit Lane is proudly brought to you by the Australian Sports Sedan Association and the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship. everybody, and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane. Whether you're watching us live on YouTube, Facebook Live, or if you're watching us on delay on Channel 31 Friday nights at 6:30, you are most welcome, and we're very happy to have you. Coming up a little bit later on, as they say, a tight show is a good show, and we've got lots of stuff for you tonight. Coming up a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by James Brockett. He's going to be telling us about this weekend at Sandown, when the Marque MG is returning to the racetracks in the Australian Production Car Series. That's coming up this weekend at the Shannon's Nationals. Also, of course, we had some family passes to give away competition, and we'll be announcing the winners of the competition a little bit later on in the program as well. Also, it was a big weekend down at Phillip Island. But before we get to that, I'll let you know we've got camera 3. We get there, there we are. Where we are, camera 3. There you go, camera 3. The Riff Raiders will be joining us a little bit later on in the program. So some great local rock and roll from our friends at the Riff Raiders. This is from their EP, Live Like You Mean It. And they'll be joining us a bit later on in the program. But it was a huge weekend down at Phillip Island, and to find out about all that happened down there, well, it was the second round of the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship. And let's take a look. Big fields, great weather. Let's have a look at that now. Round 2 of the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship sees the cars and drivers at the spectacular Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, a bit over 2 hours southeast of Melbourne. After the opening round at Sandown, Rick Newman is out on top in his 6-litre Falcon, but with a large field entered for round 2, he clearly will have his hands full at the island. Sandown Race 1 winner Dean Cam isn't at this round in his Trans Am Corvette, but returning to the series after missing the first round is the Mazda RX-8 of defending series champion Bruce Henley.
It's an ex-Dempsey Racing Grand Am car. Ran Daytona 24 Hours in 2012 and 2011 and 10, I think. It's the latest of the RX-8s built by Speed Source in America.
So what sort of engine is it running?
It's running a 20B peripheral port. It's not a highly strung engine. The engine's good for 50 hours of racing, which is what I like. We don't use a lot of revs, but the cars are built around reliability. They're designed to run for 24 hours. And it's showing it, because even I'm having trouble braking it.
Race 1 was again held on Saturday afternoon. Newman's Falcon was on pole, but the second place Commodore of Paul Panesi was missing, leaving Henley, fellow Mazda driver Graham Gilliland and Camaro driver Chaz Talbot as the main chances to unsettle the rapid Falcon. Gilliland made a great start, but Henley was caught out wide at turn 1, letting Terry Hamilton's 6-litre Commodore take third as Newman led the field into Southern Loop. Hamilton was second on lap 2 as Gilliland dropped back into the clutches of Henley in the fight for third. Chaz Talbot's handling problems got the better of him at the hairpin with this spin, thankfully without any contact. Newman was still in a comfortable lead, but Hamilton was now under pressure from Henley, who was on a charge. Further back in the pack, Andrew Cook's Commodore was leading the Datsun 260Z of Gordon Lovegrove and John Lawson's Subaru WRX. Henley finally made it past the Hamilton Commodore as the Nissan of Viniero Stenta started to reel in Gilliland. Lee Partridge in his RX-7 fought his way through from the rear of the grid to take the under 2-litre lead from Steve Howard's Toyota. There was plenty of great racing in the battle of the Nissan Pulsars, with Matthew Butters chasing down Steve Canizzo. Stenta Skyline was closer than ever to Gilliland's Mazda, but the grunt of the Nissan wasn't enough to overcome the nimble handling RX-7. Ashley McLurkin's Nissan came to a halt on the final lap at the hairpin, bringing out a yellow flag that caused all sorts of chaos. Ash then found the Alt Control Delete button, and the Sylvia spluttered back into life. Newman went on to a comfortable win from Henley with Hamilton in third place. Stenta took fourth place after Gilliland was penalised 5 seconds post-race. Lee Partridge won the under 2-litre battle with Butters leading home the Pulsar Brigade. Sunday morning's first race was another all-the-way win to Newman's Falcon, but the main interest was could Chaz Talbot carve his way through from the rear of the grid in the Camaro. Talbot was up to 12th place at the end of the second lap, making it all the way up to 8th by the end of the 4th. But his progress ended when the race was red flagged on lap 5 when the Mini of Craig Linsell hit the wall hard at turn 1, ending the race and causing a major delay to the meeting. Thankfully, Craig wasn't seriously hurt, but the car was extensively damaged. Newman took the win from Henley, with Gilliland just holding out Stenter for third. Partridge was again the first under 2 litre car home, and Butters once again won the Pulsar battle. And as the sun sets slowly in the west, we say goodbye to Phillip Island with the final race. And the question, can anybody beat Rick Newman? As the cars headed off on the first lap, the answer would seem to be no. The Falcon again led the field away, with Henley jumping in front of Gilliland in the Battle of the Rotaries. Talbot started from 8th place, but was already up to 4th by the time the field got to Siberia, blasting past Stenter and Partridge. Lap 2, and Newman had vanished. The Falcon forced out with driveline issues. This left Henley in the lead, but the Camaro was now in 2nd place after making his way past Gilliland, and he was closing in fast. There was plenty of close racing back in the pack, once again showcasing the incredible variety of local sportsman racing. Henley was still in front at the halfway mark of the race, but Talbot was making steady progress. Although with the race shortened to only 8 laps, the question was, would he have time? Steve Howard was holding down 2nd to Partridge in the under 2 litre class as he kept ahead of the battling pack led by Mark Durbin XC Falcon and the Lovegrove 260Z. The final lap, and Talbot was right on the tail of Henley in the run-up to Lukey Heights. But at the line, the Camaro powered its way past to take the win by less than 2/1000ths of a second in an absolute thriller.
We started 8th and we just caught Bruce on the last corner. I knew that he was a bit slower than me on the last corner, and I knew if I got close enough to him, I could maybe pull up beside him and get off the corner a bit quicker, which is what happened. Up until then, I just couldn't make any ground on him. He was slowed by a couple of the other cars on that lap, trying to pass them, and that was to my advantage, and I took advantage of it, of course. And Graham Gilliland, he was third. Well, he and I had a good dice in the first couple of laps, but then when my tyres came to me, I was able to pull away from him and chase Bruce. We had a lot of trouble this weekend. We started 28th on the grid this morning and finished 8th. And then from 8th we went to 1st, just on the last lap, can't get over it.
Henley won the honours for the weekend ahead of Gilliland as the Rotary Brigade struck back. Despite his non-finish in the feature race, 2 race wins has kept Rick Newman in the championship lead as the series moves to Winton in Victoria's northeast on June 16th and 17th. Yes, some great racing down at Phillip Island on the weekend, and we look forward to Winton coming up. But for our Channel 31 viewers, we're going to take a break right now, and when we return, we're going to find out about what's happening this weekend at Sandown International Motor Raceway with our guest, James Brock. You're watching In Pit Lane. We'll be right back after this break. And for those watching live on YouTube or Facebook or anything, yes, a great weekend down at Phillip Island. We thank the Australian Sports Sedan Association once again for making it possible, not for us to just film down there, but also to continue here on In Pit Lane. We really do appreciate it. It was a fabulous, fabulous turnout, and the exciting news is there's more new cars and rebuilt cars on the way. Liam Hill's Hyundai, soon to be powered, or now powered by a 6-litre V8 engine, believe it or not, is going to be ready fairly soon. We've got Rand McClurkin has bought the Derek Van Zelm, Dean Cam, Gary Roberts, Honda Prelude, the Chev-powered machine, which was very successful, won championships in the hands of Dean Cam many years ago. So right throughout the year, the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship is going to provide a lot of great and exciting racing, and I hope we get some really big fields as we did on the weekend. It was great to see all of those different cars. As I said in the story there, I mean, all of the variety there, and that's something that we don't see enough of in motorsport today. So once again, from all of us here on In Pit Lane, from RMI TV and Channel 31, we do thank the Australian Sports Sedan Association for their ongoing support of In Pit Lane. Now, as we said on the weekend, coming up this weekend at Sandown, but also last weekend was, well, our guest was also down at Phillip Island doing a bit of testing, and to find out all about that, as we say, welcome back our Channel 31 viewers, we'll go to this story to introduce our guest coming up, James Brock. MG has been a part of the Australian motorsport landscape for as long as anyone can remember. Even today, MG Racing is a regular feature of the Victorian State Championships, and its car club continues to be one of the largest and most active in the country. That most quintessentially British marque is now owned by the Chinese, and yet the motorsport DNA lives on. This weekend at Sandown, drivers Elliot Barber and James Brock will return MG to top-level local competition in the Australian Production Car Series. For Brock, it's a return to racing, but also a big step behind the scenes for his Brock Racing Engineering Company, who will prepare and run the new car. So, how did it all happen? What are the plans for the future? Let's find out from the man himself. And we welcome James Brock back to In Pit Lane. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Now, we were saying before, how long has it been since you've been sort of a regular competitor on the Australian motorsport scene?
It has been a few years. I've sort of taken a bit of a step back from the tracks for about 5 years now. About 2012 was the last time I was actually behind the wheel in anger, but rest assured I've spent plenty of time behind the wheel in cars in non-racing scenarios, so I don't think I'm going to be too rusty.
So tell us how this all comes. First of all, tell us what it is. What are we going to see on the weekend? What is the deal, and what are we going to see over this weekend and for the rest of the season? Okay,
so we've basically teamed up with MG Australia, and we've prepared one of their MG6 fastback vehicles for competition in the Australian Production Car Championship. So it's a great championship and perfect for MG to get back into the sport. The cars are very standard, so there's not a lot of room for scope for modification for the cars. So realistically, what you see on the road is essentially what you're going to see on the racetrack. So we felt it was a really good, I suppose, proving ground and way to get back into the sport for MG, obviously coming back into Australia fairly recently. So basically we've got a almost stock standard MG6. We're going to be running in Class E, and I think we've got we'll be up against cars like Toyota Echo, Mazda 3, that sort of thing. It's the compact class essentially is what it's going to be running in. So we're looking forward to it. We had a good run down the weekend at Phillip Island. The car, that was essentially our shakedown. It was a race meeting, but for us it was the shakedown and first test of the car. So that was the first wheel, first turn of the wheel down there on the weekend, and we were absolutely stoked with the way the car went. It was really good.
So when you talk about it being the production car championship and almost stock standard,
yep.
What exactly can you do? I mean, you're a race engineer. What do you just take it, unpack it, give it a polish and put some numbers on it, send it out? What do you actually do? What can you
probably
change?
Could get away with it, I reckon. So, I mean, obviously, aside from the basic safety stuff, which you have to have, like roll cage and racing seats and harnesses and all that sort of basic stuff, essentially the drivetrain has to remain standard. You are allowed to rebuild the engine and stuff like that, but you must use standard components and they must be within the manufacturer's specifications. So essentially what we're allowed to change, wheels, tyres, brakes and suspension as far as dampers and springs are concerned, and that's really about it. You can play with the ECU, or you can put an aftermarket ECU if you want in it as well. So there's a bit of room there. I mean, it's definitely, you can spend a lot of money if you want, and if the budget's tight, you don't have to spend so much.
The interesting thing was watching you on the weekend was, I mean, you weren't obviously at the front of the field, but you were still amongst some dedicated racing machinery there, and it looked, and it also sounded pretty good as well.
Yeah, look, as I said, we were really happy with the way the car went. For me, I've never actually driven a car like that down the island before, so I really wasn't sure what sort of time I was going to get down to. We ended up getting down to a blistering 2 minutes flat. But having a look at the competition, I had a look at what times the other cars were doing there at the round last year, and we were about 7/10 up on any of the fastest laps from last round last year, which is quietly confident for us. We know we've got a little bit more time to make out of the car, but it was great. We really had no faults. The car ran faultlessly and was pretty smooth, and it was very nice to drive. basically, it's very good under brakes and very good in the mid corner. So we've got a huge amount of mechanical grip, which is about, you know, really the only thing we can make up ground on any other cars out there, because we've got a little bit of a deficit in horsepower in comparison to quite a few of the other cars in the category there. But I think we're looking pretty good.
The other interesting thing about the racing on the weekend is it's listed as a 4-hour race, but it's not just start from go. It's actually 4 1-hour races over a weekend.
Yeah, correct.
What do you think about that sort of format?
Well, I think it's good for the first round of the championship, as far as I suppose giving people an opportunity, and competitors an opportunity to ramp up their race program for the year. It means that I suppose the race meeting is going to be a little bit cheaper to run for a few people. You don't require the pit crew there. There's no fuel stops. You can do a driver change if you wish, but you can. I'm actually going to run the car by myself this weekend. Elliot will be out there cheering me on from the sidelines, but I'm just going to drive it myself throughout this weekend. So I think it should be good. It should be exciting, and obviously it gives people a bit of a chance if they do have an issue in any of the races to obviously, you know, get the car fixed and repaired and back out on track for the next one. So it gives you a bit of leeway, a bit of room to move, and hopefully a better opportunity to have a good result.
It's interesting, production car racing with the Bathurst 6 Hour. It's now becoming sort of a major race in its own right.
Yes.
Is something like that, and the increasing profile of that event, both locally and internationally now, does that help in sort of getting companies like MG Australia on board?
Yeah, I think so. The MG were really keen to try and get to the 6 hour. Unfortunately, the program was just a little bit delayed for this year, so we didn't have the opportunity to get the car this year, but definitely for next year we'll be looking at it. Look, obviously Bathurst is a massive draw card for competitors, manufacturers, you know, spectators, absolutely. It's a great track, and it'd be a good event to try and get to. I think, you know, if you have a look at the fields in the Production Car Championship, it is on the up and up. There's a huge field. There'll be a very large field there this weekend, and the Bathurst 6 hour is definitely becoming more and more popular, and I think it's just good, and it's probably about the only way we're going to help, or you know, any opportunity we're going to have to really drag manufacturers back into the sport. As you can see, they don't support, you know, I suppose too heavily some of the other categories around. Really, supercars is the only place where they're spending their money, so hopefully we can entice them to come back. And you know, I think anywhere we can get an actual, or as close to a production car on the racetrack, it's going to be more representative of their product, and they're probably more interested in actually getting behind it and supporting it. So, fingers crossed.
What's the long-term plan for the team? Starting off with the one car. Any plans for expansion?
Yeah, look, we do have another car there sitting there, which we can turn into a race car. At this point in time, no plans for this year, but maybe for next year we might bring another car on stream. There's been, look, even just after the weekend, having a chat and obviously racing with the MG Racing guys down there, they were really keen, and there's a few guys pouring all over the car. So we might be building up that second car sooner rather than later. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in action on the weekend. Stay with us for the moment. I'm going to take another break for our viewers on Channel 31. But when we come back, we'll hear more from James Brock, and also we'll be joined by our friends, the Riff Raiders, and we'll give you the results of our competition, see who was lucky with Lucky Peoples who won family passes to a Sandown this weekend. We'll be right back. You're watching In Pit Lane. And we're still on. Thank you very much. Yes, we're back there. And we mentioned the Riff Raiders before. They're going to take us out a little bit later on. But as a bonus, for those of you watching live via Facebook Live and YouTube Live, we're going to have a bonus song for them right now. They were in the studio literally less than half an hour ago. The fact that we are actually, well, hopefully going live to air now is nothing short of a minor miracle. And congratulations and thank you to all of the crew who made that possible. And of course to the guys in the band, the Riff Raiders. They just moved heaven and earth to pack up and be out of here in 5 seconds flat. So this is the Riff Raiders. Now, as I said, I'll just grab the details once again. Oh, this is their album, incidentally, and you can get this old-fashioned. Vinyl is making a comeback. We can have a look at that. Live Like You Mean It. And we're going to, and that's in fact the title of the song we're going to hear from now. So this is, as a special bonus, this is the Riff Raiders and Live Like You Mean It.
Talk 100 miles in a minute. Why keep your feet on the ground? Live like you mean it. It's the best thing that's going around. Live like you mean it. Live like you mean it.
Yes, that was the Riff Raiders. They'll be joining us a little bit later on in the program to take us out. But right now we're going to throw back to our viewers on Channel 31, and we're going to do that. Pete, if you would do the honours.
4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Our guest here tonight is James Brock, and coming up in a moment we'll have some music from the Riff Raiders who'll take us out. But also coming up this weekend, as we said, down at Sandown will be the Shannon's Nationals, not just the Australian Production Car Championship, Australian GT. We've got the Australian Prototype Series. Aaron Russell, supercar driver for Nissan, is making his debut in the Prototype Series. A big field in the GTs. It's going to be a great weekend down at Sandown. Now, we had some courtesy of the Shannon's Nationals, we had a couple of passes to give away, a couple of family passes, and our winners, thanks to everybody entered, but our winners are Andrew Richmond from Brayside, Andrew Richmond, and also Craig Winters from Wanturna South. Congratulations, Andrew and Craig. Your names and details will be left at the gate for the action this weekend at the Shannon's Nationals at Sandown. Now, James, just to take us out, you're not just driving the car, of course, you're preparing us. Tell us about the company and what your plans are there.
I suppose I've been operating my engineering company since about 2000, so it's been around for a while. We've been involved in many projects over the years. Probably the most well-known stuff that we've done would be the Australian V8 Ute series. So we built all the Holden Utes for that series, going back when they upgraded to VE Commodore for both Australia and New Zealand. So we've got, we've played with all sorts of cars over the years. In recent years, mostly I've actually been contracting for other companies. So I've been working with people like Harrop Engineering, for example. I work with a number of manufacturers as well, doing driver training and product training, things like that. But as far as the engineering team is concerned, where I am at my company, we're just going to focus solely on the on MGs, and MG Motorsport essentially is the moniker we're going to be running under throughout the championship year. Hopefully we can obviously evolve this over the next couple of years and really, I suppose, keep this relationship with MG fairly solid and keep them in motorsport. We'd like to see, we're having fun so far, so the plan is just to keep on rolling along and then hopefully solidify this relationship and go out there and win some races and have some fun. Most importantly, you've got to be having fun. If you're not, you shouldn't be out there.
Yeah, I think that's what we always say about doing this show. No one gets paid for this. No one's running for sheep stations. If it ain't fun, stop doing it.
Absolutely.
Good luck. It's good to see you back. I think it's an interesting synergy. Two of the most famous names in local motorsport, with sort of MG and the name Brock coming back to the back to motor racing. Good luck on the weekend and for the rest of the year. We'll keep obviously keep informed and with what's happening, and hopefully we'll see you on the grid next year at Bathurst in the 6 hour, and because that is becoming a really good race. That's
absolutely
there. And I think we've seen with the commentary from Radio Le Mans and all that this year. It's really getting a lot of international interest again. That's the sleeping giant, I think.
I think so.
James Brock, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
Thank you.
And thank you to you at home. Now, taking us out, as I said tonight, are our friends from the Riff Raiders. And look, old-fashioned vinyl is making a comeback. I think we'll try, which would we try? Camera 3 again. That's the album, Live Like You Mean It. And that's available from Silver Sky Records, and you can go to the website www.riffraiders.com. They've got some bands, they've got some gigs coming up. Now there you are, you can get it through Spotify, iTunes, and Apple Music. And as we see, a limited edition of 150 of these. So well, now there's like 149 because we've got this one. And coming up, the Riff Raiders gigs, we've got supporting the baby animals. That'll be well. There's a great gig for you. June 22 at the Corner. June 2nd. The Music Man in Bendigo, May 26th, Last Chance Rock and Roll Bar, May 17th, that's coming up this Sunday at Mr. Boogeyman, and this Saturday, A Whole Lot of Love in Brunswick. So that's where you can see the Riff Raiders, but you can in fact see them right now. We'll be back next week. Now, next week on the program, I won't be here. Just thought I'd let you know. I don't know what happens. Oh, yes, I do. Jack Brennan is going to be joining us, and he'll be sitting in this chair next week. But until we see you next week from all of us here at In Pit Lane, it's good night, and this is the Riff Raiders live on In Pit Lane.
Feels so good, and I hope you'll understand it. Dreams come true, and I know that you are mine. It takes so long, and I just don't want to shake it. It feels so wrong, and I want you all the time. When I see you in the morning light, know it's gonna be alright. I just wanna hold you tight and make me come alive. To me there is no limit. I want you more and more. I'm not in it to win it. I wanna see you more. There ain't no limit. There ain't no limit. I hear you, I know you wanna take it. Dreams come true, and I know that you are mine. Feels so wrong, and I just don't wanna shake